So this again is how we can have our line graph and quadratic graphs. So the first point, let's start with our line graphs. You see, but we have four types of lines. We have the vertical line, we have we have simply the horizontal line, we have the rising line, and we have the falling line. Those are the four types of lines we have. But in this case, the general form of any line is given as y equals to mx plus c. This is the general form of any line. So if you have y equals to mx plus c, we are in this y and the x, they represent the intercept. This m is representing the gradient, and this gradient function is given as change in the vertical all over change in the horizontal, or which is same as rise all over run, or the rise all over the fall. So the m is the slope or the gradient, and this c is the intercept on the vertical axis. Now, we have four types of lines. We have to know that when the line looks like mx plus c, this line we call it to be the rising line. The rising line. So the other type of line, when you see y equal minus mx plus c, we call this to be the falling line. This is the other type of line. The only difference is the gradient is positive, here the gradient is negative. The other type of line, we have the vertical line. Where the vertical line is given as s equals to a constant. This is the vertical line. And the last line, which we call the horizontal line, which is y equals to the constant, this is the horizontal. So these are the four types of lines we have. You see. But the vertical line, we also call it as line of symmetry. You see, line of symmetry, which we consider under the quadratic graph. So since we have this, now how can we graph a line? Example, let's take basic example problem. Let's say we say let m be 2x, let's say c is positive plus 2. When we have this line, since the sign here is positive, definitely this is a rising line. So rising line, their graph move this way. Falling line, they move the other way. Vertical line, from the word vertical, so a line is going to be this way, and horizontal line is going to be this way. So anytime you draw a line on your graph, it moves this way. That line is a falling line, and it's a rising line. Anytime you draw a line, it moves the other way. On the left hand side, it's a falling line. So this way is rising, this is falling. Now let's see how we are going to have. I told you y and x, they are simply the axis, and this 2 is the slope or the gradient, and this 2 is the intercept at y. It means the line must pass at y. Now let's think of two values only. Let's plot them and see the reality. Then x, y, let's choose of x to be 0, and the other one is 1. So when x is 0, if we substitute here, 2 times 0 is 0 plus 2, this gives us 2. When x is 1, 2 times 1, 2 plus 2 gives us 4. Let's plot this line roughly. This is y, this is x. So the highest value of x is 1, let's say here is 1, 2, and y is 2, 4. I told you this one is rising because it's positive. When we draw it, it's going to move this way. So when x is 0, y is 2. Y is 2 is at this point. And when x is 1, y is 4. X is 1, this is the point, and y is 4, this is the intersection. And I told you this is representing the intercept on y. This 2 is where the line must pass, it's compulsory. So therefore the line will pass here. So this line, if we draw it straight, is going to be this. You see, because of being positive, that's why it moved this way. Now let's use the same graph we find for the falling line. Let's indicate minus 2x plus 2. We use the same line. Let's use the same values, x, y. X is 0 and y is 1. Let's see how we are going to have. So when x is 0, y is 2. When x is 1, minus 2 times 1 minus 2 plus 2, here is going to be 0. So if we plot this line, here the highest value of x is 1. This is x-axis, and the highest value of y is 2. Let's say 1, this is 2, this is the y-axis. Positive, so this is 1. When x is 0, y is 2. X is 0, y is 2, so there is a point here. X is 1, y is 0. X is 1, y is 0. X is 1, y is 0. So the point will pass through here. See? So when it is negative, it is falling. This 2 shows that where the graph will pass. This 2 is the intercept. It's just like here is the intercept. This is the basic form of drawing a line. You see, the intercept now is where the line passes through the axis. When the line passes through at x, this point is called the intercept at x. When the line passes through at this y, this point is called the intercept at y. So this is just the basic form of drawing a line. You see? So now if we move to the quadratic graphs, we also call them as the parabola. So the standard quadratic graph is given as ax squared plus bx plus c. This again is the same thing. So we have 2 of them. We have when the gradient is positive, when the coefficient of x squared is positive. This a is positive because a is greater than 0. So this line is going to be a minimum line. So call it to be a minimum graph. So this point is minimum. So the second type again we have under the quadratic graph, negative ax squared plus bx plus c. You can see this is negative, so a is less than 0. So since a is less than 0, if we plot, it's going to give us a maximum. So this line is the minimum, and this one is the maximum. So these are the maximum graphs. So anytime, just look at the coefficient of x squared. If it is positive, it's going to be a minimum graph, which is U-shape, or we can also call it a cup shape. And when it is negative, it's an N shape, which is the maximum graph, or an N shape. These are the 2 types of graph. But how can we verify that? Let's just take a equals to x squared. Since this is positive, we are going to have a U shape, which is a cup shape. Let's just choose, since it's a curve, 3 points might be okay. Let's say x, y, 0. Let's start with 1, 0, and minus 1. This might be okay. So when x is 1, y is 1. When x is 0, y is 0. When x is minus 1, y is 1. This is the graph. Let's see what we are going to have. Y, x, here is 1, here is 1, here is minus 1, here is minus 1. So when x is 1, y is 1. X is 1, y is 1. So the intersection gives us a point. When x is 0, y is 0, give us second point. And when x is minus 1, y is 1, give us another point. So this is it. So to start from the first point to the second point and to the last point. You see how beautiful it is. So when it is positive, it give us U shape, which is cup shape. Now let's take the same graph minus x squared. Now it is negative, and as well as we also use the same values of x as 1, 0, and minus 1. Now when x is 1, this is going to be minus 1. When x is 0, when x is minus 1, this is minus 1. So we have those points. Let's see what we are going to have. And the highest value is 1, 1. Let's say 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1, 1. When x is 1, y is minus 1. When x is 1, 1, and y is minus 1, we have this point. When x is 0, y is 0, we have this point. And when x is minus 1 and y is minus 1, x is minus 1 and x is minus 1 and y is minus 1, we have this point. You see, so in this case, when x is 1, give us minus 1, 0, 0, it give us minus 1. So this is the first point. So the graph is going to give us an N shape. When x is 1, y is minus, when x is 1, let's plot it here again. Just x is 1, y, x, here is 1, this is minus 1, this is minus 1. When x is 1, y is minus 1, the points will be here. Sure. When x is 0, y is 0, the points must be here. And when x is minus 1, y is minus 1, the points will be here. Wow, we got it. Now, if we draw from the first point to the second point, you see how beautiful it is. So this is just a rough way of drawing it. So this graph gives us a maximum graph which has a negative of coefficient of -1, and this is positive graph. This is the U shape, which is the minimum, and this is the N shape, which is the maximum. This is just a short way of drawing quadratic graphs. So if you see graphs like 3x squared plus 4x plus 1, you know the coefficient is positive, therefore it is a minimum graph, which is give you U shape. If you see another graph like, let's say, 5x squared